Father, I saw 11 stars, the sun and the moon bowing before me.
My beloved son, keep it secret from your brothers.
Father loves Yusuf more than all of us. As long as he remains here, we will never have our father's full attention.
My sons, protect Yusuf. He's precious to me.
Don't worry, Father. We'll bring him home safely.
Imagine for a second the people you trust most in this entire world. I mean, the people bound to you by blood, who are supposedly hardwired to protect you at all costs.
Right.
Imagine those exact people dragging you out into some remote wilderness, standing over you, and just dropping you down into a pitch-black well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then just walk away. They leave you there to die. I mean, if that happened to you, you would naturally assume that's just the end of your story, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's the ultimate dead end.
Exactly. But in the ancient texts we are analyzing today, that exact horrific betrayal, well, it actually wasn't the end of the line at all.
Not even close.
No, it was actually this brutal, inescapable first step that was totally required for the victim to eventually inherit the throne of the most powerful empire on earth.
It is such a wild trajectory.
It really is. So today, welcome to this deep dive where we are dissecting the sheer mechanics of ultimate resilience.
Yeah.
We are looking at a trio of sources covering the text, the untold story of Prophet Yusuf, or Joseph, from the well to the throne.
Yeah, and it is a fascinating one to dig into.
It is. And our mission here is to move way past that basic Sunday school summary you might, vaguely remember. We are looking right under the hood of this narrative.
Right, because there is so much more there.
Definitely. We want to understand the psychology of moral compartmentalization, the strategic deployment of information asymmetry, and really just the exact logistical mechanisms of how someone actually survives total destruction.
And not just survives it, but weaponizes it into sovereign power.
Yes, exactly. So let's just jump right in.
I mean, it really is a remarkable text to subject to this kind of rigorous analysis.
Why do you think it gets overlooked in that way?
Well, I think often because the story is codified in religious traditions and the sources specifically note its status in the Quran as one of the most beautiful narratives ever revealed, people tend to view it strictly through a theological lens.
Right, they see a very flat morality tale, like just be good and good things happen.
Exactly. But if you strip away all those centuries of historical dust and read it as a blueprint of human behavior, it reveals this highly sophisticated framework for navigating catastrophe.
That is a great way to put it.
Yeah, it forces us to examine the anatomy of jealousy, the geopolitical realities of the ancient Near East, and, that really uncomfortable question of what we actually do when we finally hold absolute unchecked power over the people who broke.
Okay, so to get there, we really have to start with the geopolitical and familial environment that breeds this initial disaster, right?
We do. We had to set the stage.
Right. So the story opens in Canaan with a young boy, Yusuf. The sources describe him as the beloved son of Prophet Yaqub, or Jacob.
Yes.
But to understand the actual stakes here, we need to establish who Yaqub is, because he's not just, some suburban dad playing favorites at the dinner table.
Oh, far from it. Not at all.
Right.
I mean, in the context of ancient Canaan, a patriarchal figure like Yaqub operates as the spiritual, social, and economic axis of the entire tribal lineage.
So he's essentially a king in his own right.
Basically, yeah. This is a pastoral, nomadic society. The patriarch's favor doesn't just mean you get an extra portion of food. It dictates the future leadership of the whole tribe.
Wow, okay, so it's about inheritance, authority, legacy, everything.
Exactly. So when the text notes that Yusuf is deeply loved by his father, it is telegraphing a massive shift in the tribal power dynamic.
Because Yusuf is one of the youngest sons, right?
Yes, he is.
And the older brothers, naturally, they expect to inherit that mantle of leadership.
Exactly. It's their presumed birthright. So the father's intense affection for the younger son represents this huge existential threat to them.
Man, that is a powder keg. And into that already incredibly tense, high-stakes environment drops the real inciting incident, a dream.
A very specific dream.
Right, so Yusuf has this vision. He sees 11 stars, the sun and the moon all bowing down before him.
Yeah.
And he's just a kid, so he takes this bizarre nighttime visual straight to his dad, probably not thinking much of it.
But Yaqub immediately decodes the symbolism.
Because it's pretty literal in that context, right?
Oh, absolutely. The 11 stars are the 11 brothers, and the sun and moon are the parents.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. That is massive.
It is. I mean, just notice the sheer scale of the imagery here. This isn't a dream about Yusuf getting a slightly larger flock of sheep.
Right, it's not a promotion at the family business.
No, it's a vision of cosmic disruption. The celestial bodies themselves are literally reordering their hierarchy around this kid.
That is intense.
To a man of immense spiritual insight like Jacob, this isn't just a child's overactive imagination. It is a definitive divine mandate.
Like a spoiler alert for the future.
Exactly. It's a preview of a staggering future where the natural order of their family and by extension their entire world is going to be completely inverted.
But the crazy thing is, the father's reaction isn't to throw a party and celebrate.
No, it's the exact opposite.
It's sheer panic. Yaqub immediately warns Yusuf, and he says, do not tell your brothers about this dream.
He knows exactly what would happen.
Right, he knows the jealousy is already there, just simmering right under the surface. Sharing this vision would essentially be an act of arson.
That's a perfect analogy.
It really strikes me how dangerous potential can be. I mean, think about it. For anyone listening, we often think of potential as this universally positive trait.
We do, yeah. We celebrate it.
But if you broadcast massive, world-altering potential to an audience that already feels inadequate or threatened by your existence, you aren't inspiring them. You are turning yourself into a massive target.
Yeah, that is the real tragedy of early potential. It completely lacks the armor of actualized power.
Ooh, that's good. Lacks the armor of actualized power.
Right. You have all the threat of greatness without any of the defenses. And when we look at the brothers' reaction later, because the sources give us incredible insight into their internal dialogue, we see this masterful depiction of how groupthink and rationalization actually operate.
Because they actually hold a meeting about it, right?
They do. They convene the secret council to address what they perceive as the Yusuf problem.
And what do they even say? Because they can't just come out and say, hey, I'm jealous of a 10-year-old.
Well, their core grievance is fascinating. They don't explicitly hate Yusuf's intrinsic nobility or his physical beauty, which the texts say was remarkable.
Right, it's not really about him at all.
Exactly. What they hate is the byproduct of those traits, the father's undivided attention. They have essentially diagnosed their own emotional void, this lack of the father's primary love, and they have decided that Yusuf's mere existence is the only thing standing between them and that love.
Which leads to this absolutely chilling escalation. I mean, they go from feeling neglected by their dad to actively plotting a murder.
That's a massive leap.
But they don't actually settle on murder, do they? They reach a compromise that honestly almost feels more sinister because of the mental gymnastics involved.
Oh, it really is. This is where we encounter this profound concept of moral compartmentalization.
Okay, tell me about that.
So one brother steps in and says, essentially, look, let's not bear the ultimate guilt of spilling his blood ourselves. Let's just throw him into a deep, remote well.
Like, that's somehow so much better.
Right. The logic is, a passing caravan will find him, he'll be taken away as a slave, and we'll be free of him.
It's wild that they convinced themselves this was the moral high ground.
From a psychological perspective, it is a textbook mechanism for outsourcing lethality.
Outsourcing lethality, yeah, that makes total sense.
They are telling themselves that by letting the elements or slavers or starvation do the actual killing or removing, they are somehow keeping their hands clean.
They're using the environment to launder their guilt.
Exactly. They achieve their goal of eliminating the rival without ever having to look at the blood on their own hands.
It's the ultimate lesser evil rationalization. And the crazy thing is, to execute this, they have to put on this massive performance.
A total charade.
Yeah, they transition from this dark, conspiratorial murder council to approaching their father with these wide smiles and perfectly rehearsed concern.
It's chilling.
They ask Yaqub to let Yusuf come play with them in the countryside. And the text really highlights how they weaponize the language of protection here, promising to be his absolute best guardian.
It is the complete exploitation of the family bond. And the tragic part is, Yaqub's intuition is screaming at him.
He knows something is off.
He literally tells them he fears a wolf will eat Yusuf while they are negligent. He basically hands them the exact alibi they will later use against him.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
He writes the script for them.
He does. But the pressure of the collective, this overwhelming performance of sibling devotion from 10 grown men, it just forces his hand. He reluctantly lets Yusuf go.
And this is where the sensory experience of the narrative just plummets for me. I mean, they walk him out into the wilderness.
Away from all safety.
Right.
Yeah.
The further they get from the father's physical protection, the more the masks just start to slip.
The smiles fade.
The laughter stops. The hostility emerges. And before this kid can even process that his protectors have turned into his executioners, they seize him.
It happens so fast.
I just try to imagine the sheer physical terror of this. For anyone listening, just picture it. You're a child. Your older brothers, these towering familiar figures you've known your whole life, suddenly violently overpower you.
It's unimaginable betrayal.
They carry you to this stone well in the middle of absolutely nowhere and force you down into the dark.
It is absolute sensory deprivation and psychological rupture.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to look at not just as a physical container, but as a mechanism designed to break a human being.
How so?
The sudden absence of light, the terrifying drop in temperature as you go down, the physical confinement, and most devastatingly, the echoes of his own voice bouncing off the stone as he hears his brothers just walk away.
Oh, that is haunting.
It is the instantaneous total loss of status, family, and safety. He has effectively been deleted from his own life.
Deleted from his own life? Wow. But the sources emphasize that while he is physically abandoned in that moment, he is not spiritually alone.
Right.
Man.
That's a crucial point in the text.
Right. Because at the absolute bottom of that darkness, he receives a divine inspiration, a promise that he will survive this, and that one day he will confront his brothers with this very act and they won't even recognize him.
Yes.
It's a fascinating psychological anchor. Like, in the moment of maximum trauma, he is given a glimpse of the ending.
And that inspiration is the critical counterweight to the sensory deprivation.
It gives him something to hold on to.
Exactly. It provides the psychological fortitude required to simply keep breathing in that space. It reframes the well entirely.
How does it reframe it?
It is no longer a tomb. With that promise, it becomes a waiting room.
Oh, a waiting room. I love that.
Right. Meanwhile, up on the surface, the brothers are executing the second phase of their plan, the cover-up.
Right, the alibi.
They take Yusuf's shirt, they slaughter an animal, stain the shirt with fake blood, and return to their father under the cover of night, performing this chaotic, weeping grief.
He's putting on a masterclass of manipulation.
They present the bloody shirt and claim the exact thing Yaqub feared a wolf has devoured his son.
Okay, I have to stop here. I have to push back on this entire sequence because I struggle so much with Yaqub's reaction in this moment.
It is a difficult reaction for a lot of people to process.
Yeah, because the text says Yaqub looks at the shirt and immediately knows they are lying. The story is flimsy, the blood is fake. I think some sources say the shirt wasn't even torn, just bloody.
Yes, that's a key detail in many traditions.
Right. So if you are a father, a tribal patriarch, and your 10 adult sons come back with a sketchy story and a suspiciously intact but bloody shirt, why aren't you tearing the camp apart?
It seems counterintuitive.
Exactly. Why isn't he forming a search party? Why isn't he interrogating these guys one by one? Instead, the text says he exercises beautiful patience.
Jamil.
Right. And to a modern ear, knowing your kid might be bleeding out in a ditch somewhere and choosing patience well, it sounds dangerously close to negligent passivity. How do you actually reconcile that?
That is the exact friction the text wants you to feel.
Yeah.
And it really requires us to separate our modern legal expectations from ancient tribal realities.
Okay, break that down for me.
First, we have to look at the power dynamics. Yes, Yaqub is the patriarch, but he is an old man, and his physical enforcement power comes directly from his sons.
Ah, okay. The sons are his army.
Exactly. If he accuses them of murder outright, what is his tactical move? He cannot physically overpower 10 grown men.
You lose immediately.
Right. If he wages a war against them, he destroys the entirety of his lineage, fractures the tribe completely, and he still doesn't get Yusuf back because they will never, ever confess where the well is.
So he's completely trapped. He has all the moral authority in the world, but absolutely no martial authority.
Precisely. And this is the fundamental definition of beautiful patience or sabr jamil in the original Arabic context.
So it's not just sitting around.
Not at all. We heavily misunderstand patience in the modern world. We think patience is sitting in a waiting room reading a magazine, completely passive, just letting time pass.
Right, just being chill about it.
But beautiful patience is the active, agonizing containment of emotional chaos.
Wow, the active containment.
Yes. It is the profound strength required to maintain your equilibrium when your entire reality has shattered and you lack the immediate tangible power to fix it.
That is deep.
Yaqub knows they are lying, but he also recognizes his own tactical impotence. So he anchors his grief. He refuses to engage in their performative hysteria.
He doesn't give them the satisfaction of believing their lie.
Right. He doesn't complain to them. He isolates his grief and directs it entirely toward his creator. He trusts the unseen process because the seen process is entirely corrupted.
That reframes it entirely for me. It's not weakness at all. It's a strategic emotional lockdown to survive an impossible reality. So while Yaqub is locking down above ground, Yusuf is physically pulled out of the ground. The narrative shifts.
Right, the waiting room doors open.
Exactly. The well actually functions as a transit hub here. A passing caravan heading toward Egypt lowers a bucket for water and is shocked to pull up a boy.
And here we see the immediate violent economic translation of a human being.
Yeah, it's brutal.
They don't see a beloved son of a prophet. They don't see the inheritor of a tribal legacy. They see movable property.
It's just cargo.
They hide him as merchandise. The text notes they sell him in Egypt for a very small price. Just a few miserable coins.
So what does this all mean? The information asymmetry here is just staggering to me.
It really is.
The caravan has absolutely no capacity to understand his actual value. They are literally holding a geopolitical chess piece, a future visionary leader, and they price him like a discount rug at a garage sale, because that's the absolute limit of their economic imagination.
That is a brilliant way to look at it.
It's just such a powerful metaphor for how we construct self-worth, you know? If Yusuf had internalized the price tag those slavers put on him, his spirit would have died right there on that auction block.
Oh, absolutely.
We frequently allow people who completely lack the capacity to understand our value to dictate our market price, emotionally and professionally.
It's a profound point. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, to fully grasp the shock to Yusuf's system, we really have to understand where he just landed.
Right, the environment changed.
He went from the pastoral, nomadic hills of Canaan, a society based on familial bonds, oral tradition, and sheep herding, to Egypt.
Which is basically another planet.
Ancient Egypt is the absolute epicenter of the civilized world at this time. It is a hyper-structured, deeply bureaucratic, heavily militarized, and rigidly hierarchical empire.
And he enters this massive machine at the absolute bottom, a foreign slave.
But the buyer isn't just anyone.
Right.
He's bought by a high-ranking Egyptian official, often referred to in the sources as the Aziz. And this official seems to immediately possess a totally different level of perception than the caravan traders.
He sees something the slavers missed.
He looks at Yusuf and tells his wife, "Make his stay honorable. He may be of benefit to us, or we might adopt him as a son."
So the official recognizes competence and this noble bearing even under the dirt of the slave market.
Exactly. And this sets the stage for the first major phase of Yusuf's elevation.
Because he doesn't just stay a lowly servant.
No. The text notes that he is established in the land and taught the interpretation of events. We have to look at the mechanics of how a foreign slave rises in an Egyptian noble household.
It doesn't happen by magic.
Not at all. It happens through extreme, undeniable competence.
You have to put in the work.
He has to learn the language, master the complex administrative duties of an elite estate, navigate the political nuances of the servants' quarters, and consistently demonstrate unimpeachable integrity.
He becomes the most reliable, capable asset in the entire house.
Yes. He builds a flawless administrative reputation. He becomes indispensable.
But ironically, it is exactly that visibility, that proximity to the inner workings of power that puts a massive target on his back again.
The landscape shifts again.
He's out of the physical wilderness of the well, sure, but he has walked straight into a moral wilderness.
That is so true. The nature of the threat mutates entirely.
Right.
The well was an involuntary threat to his physical survival. This new threat is a voluntary test of his moral survival.
Okay, let's get into this because this is where it gets really tense.
The wife of the Egyptian official, the woman who holds immense power over his daily existence, becomes infatuated with him.
And it's not a subtle thing.
No, the sources are clear that she aggressively attempts to seduce him. She locks the doors. She creates an environment of absolute secrecy and intense coercion.
Let's talk about the power dynamics of that coercion for a second,
Yeah.
because this isn't some rom-com misunderstanding.
No, not at all.
This is the master's wife. She holds the power of life and death, or at least imprisonment and torture, over him.
She has total leverage.
If Yusuf is thinking purely about worldly survival and comfort, Giving in is the ultimate rationalization. He could easily tell himself, look, I'm a slave in a foreign land. I need protection.
It would be so easy to justify.
Right. If I please her, my life gets incredibly easy. I get resources, status, safety. If I reject her, I risk execution.
The pressure to compromise is astronomically high, but this is exactly where the core of his character is tested.
Who are you in the dark, basically?
Who are you when the most powerful person in the room demands you violate your deepest principles, and there is no audience to judge you?
And his reaction is immediate.
Immediate and absolute refusal. He invokes his loyalty to his creator, and crucially, his loyalty to the master who trusted him.
He refuses to betray the man who gave him a home.
Right. He chooses the unseen reality of his faith over the immediate, terrifying reality of her political power.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. The immediate reward for doing the absolute right thing, for maintaining impeccable integrity in the face of massive coercion, is catastrophic failure.
It really looks like that from the outside.
The official's wife, furious at being rejected, completely flips the narrative. She accuses him of trying to assault her.
She weaponizes her status against him.
And despite all evidence to the contrary, despite his flawless track record, he is thrown into an Egyptian prison.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the inflection point where I feel most people would completely abandon their worldview. The contract of a meritocracy is just broken.
Completely shattered.
He played by the rules, he did the right thing, and he is rotting in a dungeon while the perpetrator goes back to her luxury estate.
How do you maintain faith in a system or a higher power when doing the right thing yields the worst possible worldly outcome?
It is the ultimate crisis of faith for a human being. The total collapse of cause and effect.
Yeah, it just doesn't compute.
But the text makes a very specific point to emphasize his emotional state in the prison. He does not become bitter.
Which is wild to me.
He does not rage against the injustice of the Egyptian legal system, nor does he become cynical about humanity. And if we analyze the narrative structure, we see exactly why.
Okay, why?
The prison, much like the well, was an optical illusion.
An optical illusion.
To the outside world, it looked like a grave for a promising young man. But functionally, it was an incubator.
An incubator for what, exactly? I mean, it's a literal dungeon.
It's an incubator for sovereign leadership. Think about the specific skill sets required to run an empire.
In the official's house, Yusuf learned high-level administration, elite etiquette, and the political language of the ruling class.
Right, the top-down view.
But a true leader must also understand the machinery of the underclass. In the prison, he is surrounded by society's outcasts, but also political prisoners. He meets the disgraced elite.
So he's networking in the worst place possible.
Exactly. He is learning the internal shadow politics of the royal court directly from the people who were just expelled from it.
That is fascinating.
And more importantly, he is practicing localized leadership. He becomes a counselor, a stabilizing force among desperate men. He is refining his emotional intelligence in an environment of total despair.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
He is gathering the data set of the entire Egyptian demographic from the absolute highest elite to the lowest prisoner.
He's getting the complete picture.
And it's in this specific environment that his divine gift, this incredible ability to interpret dreams, is revealed and tested, right?
Yes, the text highlights two specific prisoners.
The king's former cupbearer and baker. They have these disturbing dreams, and Yusuf interprets them perfectly.
One is restored to his position, the other is executed.
And Yusuf asks the one who has saved the cupbearer to just mention him to the king, to advocate for his release. But the text says the man forgets.
He just forgets.
And Yusuf stays in prison for several more years.
And that delay is crucial. It feels like another betrayal, another complete failure of the system.
It's agonizing.
But the timing has to be immaculate.
Why?
Think about it. If the cupbearer had remembered Yusuf immediately, Yusuf might have been released as just a pardoned slave.
Oh, right.
He might have gone back to Canaan or lived quietly in the Egyptian suburbs. He would have been free, but he would not have been in the position to save a nation.
He would have just been some guy.
Exactly. The delay was absolutely required to align his release with the exact moment of a massive macroeconomic crisis.
Which brings us to the king's dream, the trigger event.
The catalyst for everything.
The king of Egypt, the absolute sovereign, is plagued by a terrifying recurring nightmare. He sees 7 incredibly fat, healthy cows being devoured by 7 emaciated, sickly cows.
It's vivid imagery.
And he sees 7 flourishing green ears of grain next to 7 dry, dead ears. He wakes up in a complete panic. He convenes all the priests, the magicians, the royal advisors, the entire intellectual apparatus of the state.
And the system fails.
Completely.
Yeah.
Nobody can give him an answer.
And that failure of the state apparatus is the exact vacuum required for Yusuf's elevation.
Because they have no one else to turn to.
Only when the elite are utterly baffled does the cupbearer suddenly remember the brilliant interpreter he met in the dungeon years ago.
He finally remembers.
He tells the king, and the king demands an interpretation.
And when the message reaches Yusuf, he doesn't play games. He doesn't say, well, get me out first, and then I'll tell you.
No, he doesn't bargain.
He just delivers the devastating truth. He interprets the symbols with absolute clarity. The 7 fat cows and green ears are 7 years of unprecedented agricultural abundance.
Nice.
The 7 thin cows and dry ears are 7 years of brutal, devastating famine that will completely consume everything produced in the good years.
But Yusuf doesn't just act as a prophet of doom here.
No, he immediately pivots to policy.
Exactly. He transitions instantly from a spiritual interpreter to a macroeconomic strategist.
Which is wild for a guy sitting in a cell.
He doesn't just diagnose the disease, he writes the prescription. He outlines a massive state-sponsored agricultural savings program.
Okay, tell me about this plan.
During the 7 years of abundance, they must aggressively harvest. But crucially, he advises them to leave the grain in the ear on the stalk, except for what they immediately need to eat.
Ray, let's pause on that detail for a second. Leave it in the ear. Why is that significant?
It is an astonishing piece of ancient logistical genius.
Really?
Think about it. If you thresh grain and store the bare kernels in a massive pile for 7 years, it will rot.
Oh, because of moisture and pests.
Exactly. It will attract pests, weevils, and moisture. By leaving the grain encapsulated in its natural husk, attached to the stalk, you dramatically increase its shelf life.
That is so smart.
It's a natural preservation technique required for long-term hoarding. Yusuf is basically proposing a complete overhaul of the Egyptian economy.
From a prison cell.
Yes. He is suggesting centralized rationing, massive infrastructure projects to build the silos, and an austerity program implemented during a time of extreme wealth.
Which is the hardest time to convince people to save.
It requires immense administrative discipline.
And when this comprehensive master plan is relayed back to the king is just floored. He recognizes immediately that this isn't just a clever guess. It is divine insight coupled with genius-level statecraft.
He knows he needs this guy.
So the king issues the order, bring him to me. And here we reach the moment in the text that absolutely stuns me.
It's a pivotal moment.
The king of Egypt has just handed Yusuf the keys to the cell. It's over. The nightmare is over. The guards come down and say, you're free. The king wants you. And Yusuf says no.
He refuses.
He absolutely refuses to leave the prison.
He sends the envoy back to the most powerful man in the world and demands an inquiry instead.
It's unbelievable.
He asks the king to investigate the women, specifically the official's wife, who cut their hands at a banquet years ago, which is a reference to the scandal that put him there. He refuses to step out into the sunlight until the historical record is corrected.
But why? I genuinely struggle to understand this restraint.
It seems crazy, right?
Yes. If you have been rotting in a cell for years for a crime you didn't commit, and the king offers you a pardon, you take it. You sprint out the door. Why risk angering the king by making demands from a dungeon?
Because Yusuf possesses an extraordinary understanding of the mechanics of power and moral authority.
Okay, how so?
If he accepts the pardon and walks out, what is his actual social status? He is a physically free man, yes, but in the eyes of the Egyptian elite, he is still the treacherous servant who tried to assault his master's wife and just happened to get lucky because he could solve a riddle.
Oh, right. A pardon forgives a crime. It does not erase the guilt.
The shadow stays with him.
Always.
Exactly. And Yusuf knows what is coming. A 7-year famine is about to decimate the region.
The crisis is imminent.
He knows that executing his austerity plan will require draconian measures. He will have to seize grain, enforce rationing, and manage the panic of millions of starving people.
You can't do that if people think you're a criminal.
You cannot execute that level of authoritarian economic control if the public and the nobility view you as a morally compromised liability.
They would revolt.
Exactly. The people must completely trust the integrity of the man rationing their food. By refusing to leave the prison, Yusuf is forcing the state to clear his name on the highest public stage.
He is demanding vindication, not just liberation.
Vindication is the key to his future authority.
And his gamble pays off flawlessly. The king, likely even more intrigued by a prisoner who possesses that kind of unshakable dignity, orders the investigation.
He opens the case back up.
The official's wife is brought forward, and the truth, which has been buried for years, finally comes out. She publicly confesses.
A total exoneration.
She admits that Yusuf was truthful, that he was pure, and that she was the aggressor. His record is completely expunged. He walks out of that prison not as a lucky convict, but as a man of unimpeachable state-verified integrity.
And the king's reaction is total submission to Yusuf's competence.
He just hands him the reins.
He doesn't just make him an advisor. Yusuf actually says, "Appoint me over the storehouses of the land. Indeed, I am a knowing guardian."
He asks for the job.
He does. And the king grants him absolute executive authority over the treasury and the agricultural resources of Egypt.
He essentially becomes the prime minister of the empire. The text summarizes it beautifully, noting that the young boy who had been abandoned in a well had now become one of the most trusted and powerful leaders in the land.
The trajectory is just breathtaking.
It really is. But the story hasn't closed the loop yet. We have to move into the macro event, the geopolitical crisis that finally forces the past to collide with the present.
The famine arrives.
Right.
And exactly as Yusuf predicted, it is devastating. The 7 years of abundance end, the crops fail, and starvation sets in across the region.
But because of Yusuf's meticulous, agonizing preparation, Egypt's silos are full.
They're the only ones ready.
Egypt becomes the sole remaining grocery store for the entire Near East. And the famine doesn't respect borders. It reaches Canaan. It reaches the tents of Prophet Yusuf.
And so, facing starvation, Yaqub sends his sons to Egypt to buy grain.
The brothers.
These brothers, the exact architects of Yusuf's initial destruction, pack their bags and travel to the capital of the empire.
It's just poetic irony.
They are ushered into the bureaucratic machinery of the state, eventually standing before the high official in charge of rationing the food. They stand right before Yusuf.
And here we reach the absolute zenith of information asymmetry.
It doesn't get more extreme than this.
The brothers are looking at an Egyptian noble. He is dressed in the regalia of the empire, probably speaking through a translator, surrounded by guards, wielding absolute sovereign power over their survival.
They are completely oblivious.
But Yusuf looks at them,
Yeah.
and the text is explicit. He recognizes them immediately.
Immediately.
I try to place myself in his body in that exact second. The adrenaline spike must have been deafening.
Overwhelming.
Imagine the person who systematically destroyed your life, the person who bullied you, ruined your reputation, stole your future, and threw you in a ditch.
Just standing right there.
And now, decades later, they walk into your office, completely desperate, begging for resources to keep their families alive, and you hold all the cards. The primal human instinct for catastrophic revenge in that moment must be just overwhelming.
Oh, it is the default setting of human nature.
Right.
When a victim suddenly acquires absolute power over their abuser, the reflex is to inflict the exact pain they suffered, to make them feel the terror of the well.
To balance the scales.
But this is where the narrative elevates from just a story of survival to a masterclass in spiritual transcendence.
What does he do?
Yusuf does not crush them. He does not reveal his identity and order their execution. He leans into the divine promise given to him in the well. All those years ago, you will remind them of what they have done while they do not recognize you.
So he engages in a test.
Yes, a highly calculated psychological test.
He provides them with their provisions. He treats them with outward hospitality, but he sets a trap, or rather, a condition.
Right.
He learns that they left their youngest brother, his full brother, Benjamin, back in Canaan with their father. And Yusuf tells them, if you want more grain next year, you must bring this youngest brother to me. If you don't, you get absolutely nothing.
We must analyze the intent behind this demand, though. It is not arbitrary cruelty.
No, it's very specific.
Yusuf is recreating the exact familial dynamic that led to his own attempted murder.
Oh, I see.
Benjamin is now the favored youngest son who remained at home with the father. By forcing the brothers to bring Benjamin into a high-stakes environment, Yusuf is stress-testing their character.
He wants to see who they are now.
Exactly. Have they evolved? Or are they still the exact same men who would sacrifice a younger brother to secure their own interests? He is engineering a scenario to see if true reconciliation is even possible.
He is giving them the opportunity to make a different choice.
Yes.
So he sends them back with their food, and in this brilliant move of psychological warfare, he secretly puts the money they paid for the grain back into their saddlebags.
Which is terrifying for them.
When they open their bags back in Canaan and find the money, it creates sheer panic. They realize they are now indebted to, and perhaps suspected of theft by, the most powerful man in Egypt.
It ensures their return, but it also completely strips away their sense of control. They are entirely at the mercy of forces they cannot comprehend.
Right, they're just reacting now.
When they eventually return to Egypt with Benjamin after wearing down their father's terrified resistance, of course Yusuf escalates the test.
The famous cup incident.
Yes. Through a complex series of events involving a planted royal cup in Benjamin's bag, Yusuf engineers a situation where Benjamin is accused of theft and faces enslavement in Egypt.
The trap is sprung. The brothers are given a choice. They can walk away.
They could just leave him.
They can go back to Canaan, tell their father, hey, he stole something, we couldn't save him, and they get to live. It's the well all over again. They can abandon the favored son to save themselves.
But this time the reaction is entirely different.
What happens?
The brothers break down. The eldest brother refuses to leave, stating he absolutely cannot face his father again after what happened with Yusuf.
So they don't abandon him.
No, they actually offer themselves as slaves in Benjamin's place. They demonstrate sacrificial love.
Wow.
They pass the test. They prove that the decades of guilt and the visible grief of their father have profoundly changed them.
And it's only then, when he sees the genuine transformation, that the dam finally breaks. Yusuf can no longer maintain the facade.
The information asymmetry collapses entirely.
He clears the room of all the Egyptian guards, and he speaks to them in their native tongue. He asks them, do you know what you did to Yusuf and his brother when you were ignorant?
The psychological shock of that question to the brothers is almost unimaginable.
It must have been paralyzing.
The realization dawns on them. The sovereign lord of Egypt is the boy they threw in the well. The terror they must have felt in that fraction of a second anticipating their immediate execution is absolute.
But instead of an executioner's sword, he offers them complete amnesty.
Complete forgiveness.
He says, no blame will there be upon you today. Allah will forgive you. And he is the most merciful of the merciful. He doesn't just pardon them legally, he absolves them emotionally. He removes the shame.
It is the ultimate manifestation of his integrity. True success in the framework of this narrative isn't just about accumulating power or surviving trauma. It is about ensuring that the trauma doesn't metabolize inside you and turn you into the very monster who hurt you.
That is so powerful.
If Yusuf had taken revenge, the trauma would have won. By offering radical forgiveness, he completely neutralized the poison of their betrayal. He restored the family, he saved the region from starvation, and he maintained his spiritual purity.
It is a stunning architecture of events. Let's synthesize what we've actually uncovered here for the listener.
I think we need to.
We've traced a path that seems chaotic on the surface. A beloved son, transformed into a terrified boy in a sensory deprivation chamber, sold as discounted property, elevated to an elite administrator, falsely accused, thrown into a dungeon for years, and finally handed the keys to an empire to save the very people who tried to kill him.
It's an unbelievable journey.
The core takeaways for anyone listening to this, especially if you are currently sitting in what feels like the dark, are profound. First, beautiful patience is not passive waiting. It is the active, strategic management of your own equilibrium when you lack worldly power.
Absolutely.
Second, maintaining your integrity when no one is looking, and especially when it costs you your freedom, is the exact prerequisite for ultimate authority.
Without a doubt.
And lastly, the timeline of elevation is rarely a straight line. It's a jagged, painful algorithm that looks exactly like failure right up until the moment the variables align.
To build on that synthesis, I really want to leave the listener with a final thought to mull over, drawn directly from the brutal irony of the brothers' original conspiracy.
Okay, let's hear it.
Think deeply about the self-defeating mechanism of their jealousy. They convened a council, plotted a murder, and threw Yusuf into a well specifically to alter his destiny.
Right, to stop the dream.
They wanted to guarantee he would never achieve the greatness he saw in his dream, and they wanted to secure the resources and love for themselves. Yet it was that exact malicious action in the well that put Yusuf on the unavoidable logistical path to becoming the Prime Minister of Egypt.
That is wild to think about.
Their attempt to destroy him was the exact transportation system required to build him. And ultimately, because they sent him to Egypt, he became the only man on the planet with the resources and authority to save those same brothers from starving to death in a global famine.
What an image. The poison they poured actually grew the tree that eventually gave them shade.
It really does leave you with a completely altered perspective on hardship.
It does. The next time you face a massive setback, a systemic failure, or a betrayal by people trying to hold you down, remember the mechanics of the well. Sometimes the very obstacles placed in your way by those trying to stop your trajectory are the exact stepping stones required to reach a destination you couldn't have even imagined. You might just be in the dark, refining your integrity, waiting for the caravan.